So in my previous set of 3 films, I talked about those primeval human music instincts of rhythm and dynamics and how important they are when you're laying down the framework of a tune. So I've just got the drum beat at the moment here. Now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to record the bass and a bit of guitar using the iRig here. So I'm actually going to record live parts onto GarageBand on iOS here. And then I'm going to play a solo over the top. Now, improvising is something where you have to think about the rhythmic placement of where you're going to put something. But there is much more fluidity here because it's about the contour, about the tones, about the notes that you're using, rather than necessarily about the rhythm. So I'm just going to put 4 bars down of bass and guitar and then play some solo over the top, and I'll explain what I mean. So here I'm going to use the amplifier on GarageBand, so I'm just going to call up a bass amp and just press go. And I'm just going to record to this beat here. Let's check my monitor level. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I tried to keep that as simple as possible so that the bass drum and the bass are really tied in together there. So now I'm just going to put some guitar chords down on another track. So I'll just find a new track here, guitar clean, just double check that that's going to work. Yeah, sounds are really nice in GarageBand on these guitar synths. So I'm just going to do some just basic chords and leaving the rhythm for the bass and the drums to sort of carry that sort of groove, and just do some held chords with a few other bits. Okay, that will do me as a rhythmic backdrop. It's not absolutely fantastic, but the principle is that you want that rhythmic backing track so that then you can put something like this. Now, the reason I've chosen the violin is because there are no frets on this. Therefore, the notes that I play, I can start tinkering with the actual tuning as well as the sort of contour. And that is quite important to get that sort of that fluidity against that sort of rhythmic precision that you have. So. Now, it's hard to transcribe exactly what I've just played there, and I can't even remember what I played anyway. Usually when you transcribe things, you'd write stuff on this stuff here, 5-line notation. And I could very easily notate the guitar and the bass parts and the drum parts. That's easy enough to do. But when you've got something like this, the tuning is completely different from the standard notes that you find, and you can have little sort of lines that, but it's the point I'm trying to make is that improvising should be very much freer than the parts that are on the iPad there. So you can, there are 1,001 videos on YouTube, and some of them are on my channel as well, where I tell you about the notes to play, and any of those notes. But that's just a scale, that's just the notes, it's the mathematics behind it. But it says nothing of the expression. and rhythmic placement and what you do with those notes. Now, of course, on guitar you can bend notes, but on the violin you can apply vibrato, you can sort of little shakes and things like that, which make all the difference when you're improvising. You're saying things with those few notes that you use. Don't sort of, feel you have to put lots of notes in. So that last little bit I did there was completely arrhythmic. It was just something that went over that, but I made sure that I arrived at the beat 1 of the next bar at the right time so that it legitimizes that sort of rhythmic flexibility. Some of that was a bit scratchy, but what I tried to do there was to get some dynamics in there as well. And it doesn't matter what instrument it is. If you're playing guitar over this and you want something that's kind of, just has a bit more flexibility with your rhythm, you can still do that sort of thing. If I just find another guitar track, and this time have a sort of distorted line, perhaps. Perhaps something less phasery. It's a bit different with guitar because I've got less control over the bends and about those sort of little shakes. But it's also a completely different instrument. If you're playing a guitar solo, you wouldn't try and do the same thing on a violin or anything else. So it's instrument specific, but the principles of it are the same. It's trying to get something that is fluid over that rhythmic sort of strict backdrop. And there we go. It's really just thinking about the structure, where you're going to put this solo line, and it also very much depends, and this is something that you can't really learn. You're either aware of it or not, but developing that awareness of the top line of the vocals. If somebody's going sort of, I don't know, when I saw you over there, yeah, looking at me with that look in your eye. It's about making sure that you answer vocal lines and you don't put too much stuff in. You are complementing that vocal line with some really simple little things. Oh, it's just 3 notes there. 3. But little slides and vibrato just bring those 3 notes to the fore. over that strict time. I'd put a little bit more rhythmic work in there, but it's just 3 notes. Keeping it simple. And that's it. Just keep solos really simple. 3 notes can say more than 12. It's absolutely fine. If you... It's over a tune like this, it kind of doesn't really work. And if you were going to do something like that, leave it till the end of the solo, so you start really, really simple and then build your ideas. So, I started off with 3 notes, and by the end I was going all over the neck. Doesn't have to be like that, but there was some development in there, and also some silences in between your solo lines. If it's just one long solo with no gaps, no punctuation, it's like trying to read a book where there are no spaces between the words and no punctuation. It's virtually impossible, really tiring. Same thing applies to this. So there we go. There's a bit of how to improvise in terms of thinking outside that rhythmic box.